Lovely. Well, welcome to the final session. I hope you've had a good day today. It's been a very good day from our point of view. We thought we'd got away with no problems until the last session, but I think we pulled it off. I don't think anyone noticed. Probably shouldn't have said that. But there we go. So everyone come in, grab some seats just while we do the introductions. We've got 4 panel members that have agreed to, I say agreed, been bludgeoned into joining us today. So we've got Beth, let me put the names up so that you can all see. We've got Beth Fitzpatrick, who's representing, she probably doesn't realise this, the ECF today. So hold on to your youth for that extra little bit longer. We've got Ralf Hartmann, who's the incoming, so you're the president-elect of big INCOSE, so be nice to him. He's got funding and all sorts of stuff. Thank you. How do you think we flew them here? It wasn't us. We got Lisa Pritchard, who's representing the UCAB. You're the deputy chair of UCAB at the moment, aren't you? But anyway, you're nicer than Derek, basically. So, and more valid opinions is what I mean by that. And then finally, by no means last, we've got Steve Records, who has managed to pull off the ultimate job of actually having a paid salary from INCOSE. So that's absolutely fascinating. So we'll all be making notes, Steve, if that's all right. So, as usual, we'll try and keep it fairly light. We've got a few topics we want to talk about. The main discussion theme is new opportunities and new horizons, the future of INCOSE UK. And we're really looking forward to the viewpoints we've got on here. As usual, just to remind you all of the topics when I go off this, there'll be some visual clues. So these are the visual clues we've got today. So we've got, that's a horizon, okay. That's collaboration. Okay, that's the future. If Nikki this morning was to be believed, of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and anybody know who that is? Any panel members know who that is? Welcome to inclusivity, right there. So that's Huey Green, who hosted a show in the 70s, very popular on the Saturday early evening, called Opportunity Knocks, and rather bizarrely, fun fact, turned out to be Paul Yates's father, who had her adopted many years. Anyway, completely irrelevant to all of you on the panel, but every day's a school day. So, first of all, so if you don't mind, Steve, we're going to start with you. And we're going to say, you know, broad speaking here, nobody's going to hold you to any of this, so just trying to get some of your thoughts out here. What do you see as the, let's cut straight to the chase now, the sort of future relationship between INCOSE, big INCOSE, and INCOSE UK, bearing in mind that there are quite a few people sort of concerned about this, I would say. It's probably fair to say.
Well, so how many people are concerned? Just out of curiosity. Seriously, raise your hands. All right. For those of you that are concerned, and there's a few even maybes, you know, I've been here 7 months, as I mentioned before, and one thing that I was oriented with was how, you know, incredibly strong the UK chapter was. Strong in membership, strong in product, strong in engagement, strong in an opinion. And I think all are true and all are good. And so, not to reiterate what I spoke about this morning, but I am maybe naive, but I'm wholly optimistic about what INCOSE UK and IFC, and I will be fully transparent and say I hate the fact that you're changing the IFC. I love the fact that you were INCOSE UK just from a branding standpoint, but I get it. I get why you're doing it. I get the need to do it here in country. But I view that the relationship will actually flourish. And it's both from a why are we here? And the reality is why we're here in this room, why Ralf and GFSE were here or were together last week in Germany. The reason that we're all here is the same why. And if we can all agree on the same why we're here, ultimately we're generally going to have the same goals, and those goals ultimately align, whether they're happening in country, whether they're happening in the United States, whether they're happening globally. So I do believe that even though there is some concern, because change is concerning to some degree, the one thing that I am ultimately aware of is that change has to happen. That's the one constant that's going to happen, and we have to be able to adapt to it, be able to mold it, and make sure that we're having proper communication.
Well, I think it's your fortune cookie again, isn't it?
It is my
we all
fortune
want
cookie.
progress, but we don't want change.
And I am, you know, I think in my time here, conversations with Andrew and Malcolm and Ian and Emma Jane and others, I think we have a good communication occurring and making sure that you know, we're actually listening, asking questions, understanding the viewpoints of each. And I don't think we're going to agree on every single thing, but at the same time, I do believe that local decisions are best made locally. But the value of INCOSE, I think, is beyond reproach with regard to what we're doing globally and what we're doing here in the UK.
Okay, fabulous. Ralf, can I ask you to give us a few comments on this?
Yeah, okay. I can jump into this one. So if I look to, let's say, the millennium, that was the time where I was very active in the German chapter. I was a German chapter president and a founding member. And then shortly at the beginning of the years 2000, I moved my attention to the international community and basically wasn't acting anymore on the German chapter. So that means now there are 20 years going into where we are today. I took various roles at international level, and at that period of time, I think I saw chapters like the UK chapter here, the German chapter, AFIS, CESAR, I saw them growing and flourishing. Now, what I discovered also then when I came into this role as the president-elect of INCOSE 1.5 years ago, that was the point in time when also the new Vision 2035 came out at the same time. So I was really glad that I got this fantastic document and this fantastic ambition at hand. However, I discovered that this is a major ambition compared to the vision documents we had before, that we have now the United Nations Sustainability Goals as an orientation. We believe that system engineering can help let's say, the global population in many of the challenges. And I said, oh, this is quite a challenge, isn't it? And that is, in fact, where also I looked back and see that we were all growing and flourishing, let's say, chapters around the world. However, we were also somehow disconnecting. So that means we have strong entities here in each of those countries, and the UK is the largest chapter we have in the world. And if we look to that ambition, which is difficult and challenging enough, we only can, let's say, take that challenge if we collaborate. So that means really as an incoming president of INCOSE, my ambition and my enthusiasm is in the next 2 years that we really start recognizing our existence in the chapters, and that the UK chapter, for example, embraces the strategy we are developing. That, I mean, the strategy is not implemented by Steve or myself or somebody else in the ivory tower. It is implemented here. So you should go as the Royal Institute in the future. You should be recognized in the UK as a serious partner and the authority of system engineering. You should be the voice who is here heard by the UK government when it comes to system engineering and its implication. And that is true for the others too. That is what my expectation
a bit of a callback to author and authority again that we were talking about this morning. Okay, so this is sounding good so far. So Lisa, let's put the cat among the pigeons. And should UCAB be worried about this, or is this an opportunity for UCAB?
I think this is an opportunity, but also there are threats because as UCAB members in the UK, you could join the UCAB Central, and there's more benefits with that one. So I think we, as UCAB, we need to look at how we go forward and how we, one, INCOSE offer maybe the same benefits and things like that, future discussions to have. But overall, no, I think it is a good thing with the more collaboration. There's so many opportunities for systems engineers in the UK and around the world that we need to collaborate to move forward. Otherwise, we don't have the resources. And so I think it is a good thing overall.
Okay, brilliant. So Beth, so what does the next generation of systems engineers think about all us middle-aged white men making decisions for you? So.
I think we're used to it, unfortunately. But I think the opportunities that we have access to through being part of INCOSE kind of globally, they can only be a good thing, right? To have more opportunities to step into. I think there's a little bit of work to be done in terms of getting that recognition from both our companies in the UK and also from INCOSE UK about what's good and connecting and building a real network about it, because I think there has been a separation in the networks. And
of course you've been involved in the whole EMEA side of things as well, so you've got very good experience in this.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed collaborating on the kind of workshop that was held. It was actually virtually, it was COVID when I was helping out, and I was supporting the outreach perspective there. And I really enjoyed that global community. But there was a disparity between leveraging the great people that we've got in our UK community and kind of it was quite painful to pull them into and for them to see the value in doing this global initiative. And it feels really strange that you're kind of representing your entire kind of country when you're engaging, you know, saying you've reached out to our working groups and all, you know, we haven't heard anything back. So, you know, it needs to come with the support and the kudos really from our companies, kind of our networks in the UK, as well as that support from the you know, the chapter in which.
So do you still think there's like a selling job to do then
100%.
internationally?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the early careers professionals have a real opportunity to do that, to be part of that change in terms of engaging and joining together and setting, you know, what that standard looks like. But yeah, it needs to be supported, you know, as a whole community of being a good thing to do. And that can be as simple as ensuring that we are, you know, cohering and linking up with working groups locally and globally, and events locally and globally. You know, literally today, I got the email about final submissions for the International Symposium. And, you know, I've only got so much of my brain and time and capacity to worry about, you know, submitting papers, and for me the priority is here because I know I can come, I can justify the travel expenses.
So you're here all day tomorrow, are you? Oh.
I've got to do some work tomorrow.
Oh, right. Prioritised, okay.
But you know, there's a capacity issue. You know, there's so many events going on. There's so many different things of ways you can get involved. And yes, there's more opportunities to get involved. So I'm probably going to do some reviewing.
And I think that's the thing. It's, you know, you volunteer and you get carried away, don't you? And you start volunteering for all sorts of
People have got
stuff.
capacity, and there's capacity limits. That's
and you've
it.
got to bear in mind you've got a day job somewhere.
That's it. Yeah, and that's each down to a priority call. But I think having better transparency, better coherence in terms of if you do want to volunteer, here are the options, there are opportunities, here's the pros and cons of each of them, and let people make an informed decision across all the opportunities that are available.
Okay. All right, fabulous. So I'm going to ask either Ralf or Steve, whoever's got an opinion. So again, what does it look like from the outside world looking in then? Because we've been talking, you know, really about should we be worried as INCOSE UK looking out, but what about coming from your perspective, you know, looking in?
So I think the newness of my role, I come in as a non-systems engineer learning in INCOSE.
That's the ultimate get out, isn't it?
Well,
I'm not actually a systems engineer.
And that's a caveat, though, to say that if you took INCOSE off of this organization and put my old organization's name on it or my organization before that, the problems that we have, the problems that we are embracing, the opportunities that we'll find are all the same. The challenges we have and the opportunities that are presented are association problems. And so the good news is we can use systems engineering, we can over-engineer, and we have over-engineered processes internally, I'm sure. But the challenge of membership, member value, being recognized, moving from an author base to an authority, whatever it might be, these are problems that associations face every day. We can look at other associations that have been successful in making this evolution and see what they did and learn from both their successes and their mistakes. So I look at this as, part of the reason I took the job is because INCOSE, in my mind, is this really interesting puzzle, if you will, because of the federated nature of how our operations work, because of the different cultures that we serve. And you know, if you look across, how many people in the audience are part of a multinational company? So there's a lot of hands up. So if nothing else says that being part of an organization, an association that is global in nature, the number of hands that went up talking about whether it's Thales or somewhere else, there's a recognition of SEP, there's a recognition of INCOSE that will apply not only through those companies, but certainly through the discipline itself. Okay. So I think there's I think we're building off of a fantastic foundation, and there's so much potential.
Okay, thanks very much. Ralf, anything to add on that? Or?
Yes, now, looking from the outside, I would say that you as INCOSE UK do exactly what I think a national chapter of INCOSE should do. Because you are our footprint in the UK, you are turning into a Royal Institute, you are understanding the legal, the cultural, the business context of this country, you are positioning us, INCOSE, rightly here in the UK and being a recognized player. And I'm really happy that this is happening and that you do that in the right way. Now, having had the meeting with your leadership yesterday, it also reconfirms to me that this does not mean that you are going away from an autonomy perspective and decouple from INCOSE. No, you go away and I'm very confident about this, to strongly collaborate internationally and globally with everybody else, while being our local footprint here with the right UK national signature, and I think this is exactly why we recognize.
And it's not, it's not exactly the same. But we look at the French chapter and the German chapter. You're not called INCOSE Germany. They're not called INCOSE France. They've got their own identities, haven't they? So
yes,
you've gone through
absolutely.
a similar situation yourselves.
Absolutely, I would say the same in these countries. I mean, I was in Germany
there's going to be
last
the
year.
differences, but yeah.
They are the German Association for System Engineering, and they play according to the German rules, and they do exactly the same. They are recognized in Germany. They are partner organizations like the Project Management Association. They recognize them rightly. They listen to them. So they do the same in terms of positioning. But let's say the rules of the game with your Royal Institute, with your chartered engineers and so on, are totally different here than they are in Germany or in France. This is why we need a strong identity and a strong local national acting chapter like you do. And this is great. As long as we recognize the common ground as one INCOSE, as we recognize also the ambition we have in the Vision 35 jointly, that we agree that this is where we need to join forces to help the planet with our, let's say, not to solve all the problems, but we are the ones who need to stimulate and to inspire the rest of the world to apply system engineering principles. And they should look back to us as the authority or the, let's say, the heart of the system thinking to help them.
Okay. Well, let's change tack a little bit, but we'll keep going with that kind of theme of the future. So, Beth, why don't we have flying cars? No, not really.
You have to ask my co-author about that.
Nice one. So one of the things, again, with your paper, with the quantum aspect of systems and the whole scalability thing, flying cars, I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed we don't have jetpacks as well. Anything that involves flying, essentially, I'm quite disappointed that we don't have them to the level we want. Do you see, I know you gave a paper on it, but is the future this sort of larger scale, more systems to systems, the quantum level stuff? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I don't think it's just quantum. I think we're really at that precipice. It's left, right, and centre. I'm actually quite glad that it's not kind of been a theme of this conference. Is the whole, incoming data kind of revolution. Really, the scale of artificial intelligence, machine learning. There's so much opportunity that requires, it's essentially almost upskilling of our industry. It's a massive challenge that we're looking that will enable us to have that bigger capacity, to have that bigger scalability, to help us make more informed decisions because we've explored and modelled, more opportunities to work out what's the best one to do. So absolutely yes, I think that's the way that things are going, and it requires a more upskilled digital society.
Is that scary?
I think it should be scary. Yeah, what's scary is
I'll be honest with
fun.
you, I'll be retired in 5 years. I couldn't care less anymore. If I was your age, I'd be soiling myself now, looking at what the future holds. So,
I mean, fear is just, what is it? Excitement is the same feeling as fear, but with kind of a positive.
Very snappily put, yes. We all know that adage.
With it's the same excitement. It is the opportunity.
So you see in exciting times ahead, then embrace the challenge?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that challenge is around that digital one. It's about the upskilling one. And really, that's one of the key reasons that how we can get to that in solution is that collaboration piece. So the skills element is not just us in the room, it's everyone kind of around us from the digital systems thinking element. And it's that bigger footprint, across the world and globally, that shift to what we can do to get where we need to get to. So yeah, lots of ringing true really in terms of skills and systems thinking.
Okay.
Ask that question. So you've now got from a great point to make from a platform INCOSE point of view. How do we do that from Institute?
Well, just let me check my next question. So Lisa, from an INCOSE point of view, I was going to ask you in particular from a UCAB point of view, obviously, but yeah.
So I think I share a slightly different view because
you are soiling yourself.
I am slightly different, but we're forgetting the little guys. every engineered system needs systems engineering. And yes, there's a big digital that really needs a lot of systems engineering, but there's also a tiny bit of software or a new pump. We also need to make sure that every engineering system, every engineering company, every engineer understands the basics of systems engineering, not get pulled off to look at the new, shiny, really complex thing. We need to go back to basics. I think that's...
No, you said the magical word there, digital. Is that not just muddying the water and deceiving everybody because everything's digital now? Or everybody wants the world to go digital without fully understanding what it means?
I think that's it, isn't it? It's what does it mean in what context? And I don't think we know as INCOSE what digital
But it seems to be a
means.
badge you can put on things if you don't quite know what you're talking about and get away with it and sound clever.
Digitally, yeah.
That or AI
Yeah.
or agile.
Any of those, yeah.
Small A or big A.
Okay, Steve, any thoughts?
About how we address the needs. You know, I think we serve multiple constituencies. There's certainly the companies. There's certainly the old white men, as you put it.
Yes.
I'm quickly becoming one if I'm not one already. But as we think about the tenured practitioners, if we think about the early career practitioners, we think about students, we think about companies, large companies, small companies, national companies, multinational companies. I think we probably need to focus a little bit to say who are the primary people that we're looking to serve, because we have to serve each one of those groups a little bit differently. And that doesn't mean that we don't serve, means we serve them all, but we have to prioritize how we serve them. You know, as we look at becoming that authority, does that change in how we might engage with curriculum development, be it at a school or something we would create ourselves? A large multinational airline manufacturer, Boeing, was asking us something very similar about this, of like, very, very frankly, they said, people are coming out of school and they do not have the skills to do what we need them to do, and we do not have the time to send them to a master's program or to train them. Why can't you? Or help develop something that we could put something through.
I mean,
and that's an opportunity that we're like, that's kind of interesting. What does that mean?
Yeah, and it's worth noting as well that INCOSE and the Associate Systems Engineering Practitioner scheme, you know, is actually absolutely brilliant. And it's not anything that any of the other professional institutes really offer.
Kind of a leveler, isn't it?
It's a real great level, and it's a real great qualification that anyone can do with just reading a book, and it brings people into and gives them something to work on when they enter. So it's worth kind of recognising that actually, even within the other institutes within the UK, none of them have such an equivalent thing. So that's one of the real benefits of having that INCOSE global aspect, is that ASEC in particular certification that helps bring people in and along, and it's, you know, so desperately needed when there's such a lack of systems engineering kind of knowledge and training.
And it's, you know, looking back at the theme, so we mentioned collaboration, and we saw our keynote this morning from Nikki saying we've got to be more inclusive. Of course we have, but the set of stakeholders is getting progressively larger, as I think is a good thing as we're becoming more aware. And with that, obviously, there's a finite pool of systems engineers, and there's going to be people that aren't classically, no offence, Steve, that aren't classically trained in systems engineering. Well, anyone in these days, it's that kind of thing. But there's got to be this leveler. There's really got to be, because we can't just assume everybody's got this background in it. And I think that's I've never thought about it like that before, Beth. That's a really good example on that. So, okay, Ralf, any thoughts?
Adding to this last point, primarily is. I think we do have, I mean, we have not only engineers as stakeholders. So we have engineers, and I agree with you, we need to look to all kinds of engineers, and they all need to have that piece of system engineering that they need to understand. But we have also, let's say, other people who are not engineers, who are our stakeholders. They don't know that they are stakeholders of us. We don't recognize them so much, and they are even not members. So I think the global society is a stakeholder. We have many stakeholders we need to serve, and we need to be careful that, of course, we need to primarily serve the member stakeholders who pay for us and to work on it. But I think there is a larger ambition of invisible stakeholders we need to start to serve. And especially then also I would like to come back to that element of digitalization. I think the digitalization and the digital century we are in, that leads us to the big systems of system we are all using. And people are not aware. They are digitalizing things, they have apps, they have computers and tools and blah, and they are not recognizing that they are in the system of system ecosystem. So that means system engineering and approaches and system thinking becomes even more important in that century. And then back to this famous MPSE, I mean, we shouldn't be so proud about this because we are the last discipline in the world who picked up modeling for doing their task. So it was over time already by 10 years that we as systems engineer picked up modeling and digital tooling and so on in order to orchestrate the collaboration of all the others who were already all digital. So I think we are now catching up, and that's good.
And where would he find out more information on, for example, modelling, would you say? So.
You find more information than you can digest on our website and on our working groups and so on.
In the books.
Because the weakness is that we provide the information without the right structure and the guidance how to use it.
Okay, fabulous. So, and I think that, yes, this whole stakeholder thing, I like what you say, Ralf, about the invisible stakeholders, the ones that we didn't... I mean, I was in the Netherlands last year. There's a couple of Dutch people here. I better be careful about what I say about Dutch INCOSE. I love them. They're wonderful. And we were doing a works example, and it was with a guy who shall remain nameless, but we'll call him Harry. And he was doing a windmill example. So we were doing a tutorial sort of exercise, and he chose windmills, which is the most Dutch thing I've ever done. I was in Eindhoven talking to a Dutch guy about windmills. It couldn't have been more Dutch if you popped a pair of clogs on it and put a doobie in its mouth, to be quite honest. But his point was, he said, you won't believe it. He said, 10 years ago, we could put windmills wherever we wanted and nobody cared. He says, now, we've got to talk to the neighbours, we've got to think about birds and fish. And he says, it's really difficult now. He said, my job used to be really easy. He just said it's getting so much more complex now because of all these other stakeholders. And you just go, yeah, that's the world, isn't it? And you know, increasingly, as we say, we go more towards things like systems of systems, we go more towards the large-scale stuff. That's going to happen, and we can't just assume, as you said, if I paraphrase you, Ralf, we can't just assume everybody's going to be an engineer and everybody's going to share this same understanding. So, you know, maybe we have got a sort of selling job, obviously, but maybe a sort of deceptive job as well. So, you know, using the word engineer scares people. So.
I think using the word systems engineer scares people. The amount of engineers we turn off by saying we're systems engineers and they just go, requirements, V lifecycle, thank you, I'm going away now.
Actually, it might be worse than that because coming out of the ag industry where I was in an association, they do systems engineering every day and they don't know they're doing it. And so we have when we talk about focus, we have a definition problem even with what systems engineer because what you might think of systems engineering in defense is different than what it is in agriculture, if it exists. It's certainly different than what happens at Apple Computer. And so as we think about, I think, being more focused, we also need to be very deliberate about in how we define what we're talking about and perhaps even put up guardrails to the different even types of systems engineering that we're speaking of.
Putting up guardrails, you say? Is that going against the whole ethos of working together and not siloing?
No, guardrails on at what point do we make sure that we're able to deliver as opposed to try to boil the ocean?
Right, okay, yeah, good response. So guardrails, everybody else, what are your thoughts? Do we need more checks in place?
So I think one of the reason why I really enjoy being a system engineer is the diversity of different roles. You know, you're never going to get bored in the types of projects and roles and things that you can do. And I think it's a multi-pronged approach and being really defined about what you're doing and the impact that you're having, but also being aware that actually there's a beauty in being a catch-all. You're inviting kind of everyone in, no matter how you do it, and whether that be kind of over the systems thinking piece that in the UK is now a part of civil service kind of jobs. Full stop. It's that systems thinking aspect is kind of seeping into society, which is brilliant. And so what is that an opportunity for us? Is that a threat for us? How do we kind of capitalise on that? Is there something to do with the training piece that we can use to get things on, or does it muddy the water and actually not help us at all? Do we get a bad name by people saying they're doing kind of systems thinking? And I didn't catch that last talk. I think there was a little bit on there in terms of, yes, we're saying we're using this tool, but actually we're not trained well enough to do it and then achieve the impact. So I think, that there's classic swap. But
I think the conclusion to the last presentation, it's all from Graham, was basically this is now enshrined in policy. Where's he gone? Oh, there you are. So it's kind of and endorsed by the King, no less. And you go, well, actually, we are getting the message is definitely getting out there, isn't it? And people are becoming more aware. Not explicitly, maybe, but you deliver something, and then people go, "Blimey, it's kind of working, it's good, we approve." So maybe that's the way we got to go about things. Okay.
And tailoring really, all those positives and negatives.
I can just see Bruce has got his hand up. Bruce is always good value, so we wouldn't normally go for a question at this point, but.
I'm Bruce Elliott, University of Birmingham. I'm liking a lot of what I hear, and including the guardrails, because I'm hearing two things that I'm ambitious for INCOSE, that it should be broad-ranging and that it should be authoritative. But there's a conflict here. Systems, when you're in this systems lark, everything connects to everything else. Question is, who on this planet is not a stakeholder for systems engineering? And how do we, as a global community of some tens of thousands of people, act as an authority for 7 billion inhabitants? Maybe guardrails? I don't know. Any other ideas?
It's very interesting. Ralf and I have had this discussion many times about, as INCOSE, should a part of our mission be to feed the world? That's a fantastic mission, and can systems thinking do it? Probably. Can INCOSE do it? Well, certainly not anytime soon. And so as we think about not only the mission aspect of it and the systems engineering discipline aspect of it, we also have to face that we have a business that we're running too. And so, that business is driven off of providing value to each of you, to your companies, understanding where we can be that authority, because we cannot be the authority in all things, and that's the one thing I'm pretty confident of. So one of our board members said, you're not really being strategic until you start saying no to things. And I think INCOSE, probably both in the UK and certainly on a global level, have had the opportunity to just say yes to a lot of things, and that has created a bit of a sprawl, for the lack of a better term, of where we're going.
Yeah, and you're right. You got to put a line in the sand at some point, haven't you? So, sorry, Ralf.
And this is why I don't like so much, let's say, in that wider context to use the term authority, because I think that is not appropriate. However, what I like is the term thought leader and the term being, let's say, inspiring to the community. And this is where we can be, if you have a chemical reaction, you have a catalyst. Here's a small thing which makes then a big effect later on. So we need to be that catalyst and that inspiring element to the rest of the global population, picking up the system thinking, let's say, elements.
Okay, well, we've got a couple of minutes left, so we're going to end up. I'm going to come to you first, Beth. It's going to be words of wisdom and advice for the future. Over to you, Beth.
So I think it's the same question as the challenge of my talk. How are you going to engage? I think that's my question, that's my challenge. Locally and globally, how are you going to engage? Okay, fabulous. Thanks, Beth. Ralf?
Again, I think...
You can't just agree with what she just said.
Yes. Go out and actually be a role model in terms of system thinking, making sure that you are a person people recognize that you are somebody who is, let's say, recognizing interrelationships, emerging properties, and all those elements. And what politicians nowadays do not, they have a 4-year horizon, and you are able to think beyond this, and that's, I think, what we can do.
Think beyond traditional boundaries. Yep. Okay, Lisa.
I just say what they said. But it is that, go out and be a role model for people. Again, stealing from the presentation earlier, unless you see it, you can't be it. And we don't have that many systems engineers, and we need to be seen more. So go out and be role models for people.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, finally, Steve.
I might springboard off of that a little bit and say, I think there's plenty of systems engineers specifically that aren't involved in INCOSE. And we have ample opportunity to go recruit our friends, our colleagues, and our neighbors, if you will, about what great organizations that we have and the impact that INCOSE has. So I don't believe that, or I should say that in India, and India is certainly different than the UK, but they have huge aspirational goals of quadrupling membership. I'm not going to challenge INCOSE UK or IFSI to quadruple membership, but as we think about the impact that you can have here, just the people in this room, you all know 5, if not 50 people that would benefit from INCOSE.
Yeah.
Talk to a few of them at least.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, well, that's all we've got time for. A really big thank you to everybody, particularly bearing in mind, it might come as a surprise to some of you, these people only find out that they've been volunteered by me normally a couple of hours before they're up on here. They've got no idea what the questions are, partly because I've got no idea what the questions are before we get up here. So they've done an absolutely fabulous job. So can we welcome, can we thank very much Beth, Ralf, Lisa and Steve.